Take two. Hey, this is Tomlin's Nyback. We're here talking about racial issues here at 365 Days Towards Racial Change. We look at the black folks' issues from many directions. We've had extended time in Uncle Tom's cabin. We're going to get right back to that in another day or two. And we are, just taking a year out to look soberly and with wisdom and knowledge about why blacks are where they are in the United States of America, richest, most powerful, and accolades and opulence and country and resources, military might, right? All the stuff we say about America, on and on. Yeah, we got this group over here in the borders of this country since its inception who are marginalized, stigmatized, disadvantaged, um, hobbled in their potential as a community, as a group, to elevate themselves, to be equal participants openly in this American system. I got to do the math one day, but there's some of the mathematics is wrong, or the mathematics, the mathematical representation of black folks today doesn't match up. In the times of slavery, the population of black folks was such that the nation, the young nation at that time, enacted laws and stuff like that. You know, where are the black? Is it that are blacks a minority because white people reproduce so fast, or has there been some agent working in some way as a kind of attrition on the population of black folks? Probably is a combination of both that makes us a minority. But we weren't always a minority. We had enough numbers in this American space to give concern for pause and concern for white folks, right? So that's something I'll check out at another time. How's the power mind? I'm migrating from white folks, which you've heard a lot in past posts, to power, because power is represented by a lot of shades of color. The majority of power rests in the hands of white folks, but there's plenty of blacks, Hispanics, Asians, Vietnamese, Hmong, Russians, Ukrainians now. A lot of people, are millionaires and stuff like that. I don't know. That doesn't impress me. I don't know. I don't know what it's maybe ease of movement in the world and in the system, but what are you really? And we're going to talk about values today. We're going to take a little break from story time and talk about values and some of the things I've been hearing, before Congress went on its holiday break. How about the black mind? Now, black folks, I will probably still be very explicit in a message for black people. There's poor whites, marginalized Hispanics, Asians discriminated against, and all this. I got all that. They got a channel somewhere here that's probably easy to find. But for black folks, are we good? Has our awakening begun? Do we Has our revival happened? Have we closed ranks yet to be a potent player in America's mosaic of skin colors and peoples in the land? Overall, of course not. um, well, of course not. So we need to definitely get more momentum, get more serious. I was watching a black television station, which is actually owned by white folks. I mean, you look at most organizations and things like that, and as the more powerful it is, the more likely you're going to see it capped off by white men, essentially. you know. So I was watching this black television station, and it's a black community group and all that, and it's supported and endorsed by McDonald's, right? Man, black folks are probably might be McDonald's biggest, uh, consumer of the greasy foods and stuff. It's tasty and all that. I'm a McDonald's. Nothing against McDonald's. Uh, why can't a viable, thriving black community exist and move forward without being underneath some white endorsement? Something so white folks can say they participate and help. You know, I'm pretty much in Dr. Anderson's camp with some of those issues. I'm going to show you some resources where I get this information in a moment, but about being exclusive, about being very selfish in our space, how we um, elevate ourselves and progress on the American landscape. You know, as long as we are being endorsed, getting handouts, as long as we're not self-empowered, it's going to be up to somebody else always in the end. When we get too big, too self-determining, you get guaranteed there's going to be some agent ready to throw us under the bus and discount where we really want to go, what our needs are. As a quick example is I live in a sober community right now. I'm not afraid. I'm a product of the late 80s, early 90s cocaine, crack thing. Wasn't a whole lot of war on drugs and all the propaganda. But when white folks started dying off of an opioid epidemic, oh boy, we got an opioid epidemic. But that's another thing. Well, I live in this sober community home and stuff like that. And, yesterday I get a flyer on my door. You know, come to this 4-hour class. It's mandatory. And if you're familiar with sober communities and things, they could be religious or secular. It's always this idea that the power structure can just tell you what's what, when, whatever. If you don't comply, you're out on the street. So, I mean, you think in your mind right now, is it right for somebody to come up to you? You got life ongoing. You're doing the right things to slap you with this 24, maybe less than 24-hour notice to come to a 4-hour class the next day. And the class is about benign, stupid stuff that doesn't even talk about the root causes of what the class is about. The class is about relationships in the workplace. And it's so, like, if you're familiar, if you watched even a handful of videos here of me on YouTube or any other people, Dr. Anderson and the others, issues and tensions in the workplace ain't about because we can't communicate and all this fluffy Mr. Rogers neighborhood crap. It's about racism, ageism, sexism, gender bias, discrimination on weight, size. Huh? Those are the roots that we need to talk about. But this guy, and actually it's a black man who actually ran the class. I don't know if he instituted this impossible edict as though he's some kind of potentate. I don't think he did, but that's the culture I live in. I'm getting out of that. But that's an issue. That's a slavery mentality of the power structure. You're under our care, so of course you can cut off whatever plans you had tomorrow for a 4-hour class. I did my best to go. I went through a big process emotionally. Came down to okay, I'll stay for 2 hours of it. I went to the space. It was locked. That's all I needed, and I don't care what happens around that. Another issue with these sober communities and stuff is communication and all that. I've got a lot of experience of a recipient and could give them a lot of information, but nobody listens to me anyway. And if they ask, they don't really want to hear what I got to say anyway. I'm in a unique position like that, so it's all good. I'm inspired to do this work. The trying to answer, motivate, um, illuminate, bring wisdom to the racism problem in America. We're about to go through some serious stuff, and please stay tuned because an upcoming post, look for a post called Star Wars, and I'm going to address some interesting possibilities. I might try my hand at prophecy in there, but look for a post called Star Wars, and let's see what you think. I'm inspired to do this work anyway. Let me get on point here to get to what's going on. Do this work by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. We're going to get back into these works, I assure you. Just want to knock out Uncle Tom's Cabin. We're almost finished with story time for this year, or spilling into 2020. A Black History Reader, 101 questions you never thought to ask. Black labor, white wealth, search for power and economic justice, and Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America. Powernomics.com. I'm sorry, Powernomics. I keep running that off. The book is called Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson here on YouTube and at Powernomics.com. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You'll find Black women having their community or support there. Very important. If you're entrepreneurial mind, business minded, check out Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School and see if any of those services you may serve one another there. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, for kind of a Black Facebook experience. I advertise these people and groups, but I'm not a big online media guy, or else I'd have a whole list of Facebook and Instagrams and Twitters and all this stuff. That's another distraction. And I'm glad people have the energy for that. I don't. It's another distraction. I want to play music. I'm a guitar player. Anyway, and as mentioned a few times already, we do have story time. We're going to get back to this Uncle Tom's Cabin. We'll check in on Uncle Tom, some interesting developments on the Legree plantation. Tom is going through a lot of abuse right now. Let's see if how he survives and navigates his present circumstances. With our time left, today's post is called Justification Part 1, and we're looking at some of the things I've seen in the media, current news cycles, and it's called Justification because we want to see, I'm seeing this hearing language that says we got food on our table, bank accounts, employment, relative peace in the world right now, holidays, and that should erase, eradicate, nullify some of the egregious, immoral behavior of our leadership in America, right? You know, I wonder what the slave would feel like. Man, shoot, I got a little lean-to. Uh, might have meat once in a while, as we learned in Uncle Tom's Cabin. You know, these slaves, their base was a corn cake. You know, once or twice a day if they were lucky. You know, we're in a part in Uncle Tom's Cabin where the slaves is doing a 7-day work week. I think about mothers. My mother, I watched her growing up as I was growing up, work hard and have to come home. You know, dad worked hard, but he got home, had a cigarette and a beer, waited for worn out mom to make a meal for, you know, four other four other individuals and herself, of course, you know, and try to have her own interests. Don't get me started. It's sad when I think about especially black mother. I don't know if in white households it looks like it works so well in white households. In my household, very dysfunctional and abusive. But that's another story. What is so America, you know, and including the slave idea, you know, is it okay for our leadership, masters, to rape, be immoral, promiscuous, have extramarital affairs, uh, work in secret allegiances and stuff with other nations, to attack U.S. citizens, and all this stuff going on? You know, does a good economy justify that behavior? Does it? You know, I'll tell you what. In my experience, coming up, you know, every time I had my hand in the cookie jar, I've had it in there a lot, got caught a lot. Every time there's consequences. I'm removed from office, right? So, I don't know. Is it easier to do that to a black person than a rich white billionaire? I'm just saying, history, these are facts out there, right? And so, big news cycle going on right now. Evangelicals have chimed in, and now the church is polarized. Everybody's polarized in silos, new language to describe um, our challenges, social challenges nowadays. You know, I don't like the idea. I don't like the silo language. It means I'm cut off. There's extra work needs to be done to connect now. Even more, we're building walls, not bridges anymore. So, is the leader justified in um, behaving in this way? right? We're laying off, we're excusing his big eraser to erase the president's behavior or leadership's behavior because our economy is good. I don't know. I mean, I don't want the economy to be bad, but I don't want a leader that I can't trust to care for my interests. And black people are further, we're the afterthought at best when it comes to really getting our needs met. I'm not talking about letting a few, uh, commuting the sentences of a few prisoners, uh, maybe some token representation of black folks you know, in areas of the bureaucracy in the world and such like that. I'm talking about this whole project is about normalizing black participation and success in America, right? It does that happen under the questionable leadership. You got to go through your little journey there. Um, I don't see it now. Fortunately, as some of the news cycle, I watch CNN a lot. Some representative from South Carolina, he says, "Yeah, economy might be good, but gentrification in some of his communities is destroying and pulverizing the poor. And that means everybody, mostly black, probably. You know, um, you see guys raise their hand in some type of hearing and say they're a proud capitalist. Remember, capitalism means that somebody is at an extreme disadvantage for someone's success. I was riding on the train in my community, and I'm looking out across these fields, and I see these huge buildings, not houses, buildings where one family lives. A building, no longer houses. I mean, talking space, incredible where they live. Well, that they got that at the expense. Somebody in the world is suffering and working their ass off so that these single families can have a building in some upper community like that. That's capitalism. We never talk about that. Oh, it's capitalism, It's dog eat dog. It's sacrifice, throwing your neighbor under the bus. No, forget capitalism. I'm not advocating socialism either. But what's wrong with you sharing and uh, making? What's wrong with you sharing and not raping the life out of your neighbor? I don't know what you call it. Stop with your labels. Stop trying to put it in a silo so that you can point your finger and say that I'm biased in some way. Yeah, I'm biased against you taking advantage of your neighbor and me. I'm not a billionaire, millionaire. And I'm very squeamish when I think about something I do, something I'm doing exploits another human being. That doesn't sit well with me. I gotta live with myself, but it sits well with a lot of people on this planet. Very sad. Justification. You know, do we allow dysfunction in the face of great economics? Um, and people all over the space are making these moves and policies. No, you can't find integrity and truth in one space. It varies, and everybody is subject to engaging the system at various times in various ways, in various degrees. Um, poor logic, poor logic. I can't get over the feeling like America is in for some changes, uh, and it's not going to feel good when they come. And a lot of people are going to be surprised at who who does well on the other side of change. So we've got some issues, you know. We had a recent debate of the, I think, Democratic candidates. I think I heard them saying, like, it was probably Bernie Sanders, excuse me, and he was saying, you know, we're stretched all over the world and stuff like that. Well, we got thousands of people deployed everywhere, and everybody's interest, and we're keeping the peace, and we're having, you know, we're being so proactive. You know, in the world, I gotta tell you, America must be the most paranoid nation in the world. Always want to look in and see what's going on. I think we need to pull back. You know, let nations have their way, and you know, our morality and constitution isn't necessarily the only and right way to be in the world. You know, not in like within that climate, some of the things we just talked about. We talked about a cross section of a whole lot of issues: dysfunction and immorality, the integrity of our leaders. You know, excusing behavior in light of a great economy and things like that. Does that justify keeping leaders where they're at? You know, their division in the church and all this stuff going on right now. You know, within that, you'd say, if everything was equal, you'd see black people in general doing better overall, I think. Uh, but no, you still have this issue. Dr. Anderson is big on this. He mentions this issue numerous times. He says, you know, the immigrants. First off, the immigration policy is not fair. See if I get this in a nutshell. You know, first we were importing. America's importing black folks. Uh, then sometimes you have the Haitian Revolution, successful black folks successfully as a nation breaking their chains and becoming a nation. Well, we see the impact of that. The world just sails right on around them, doesn't do business with them, and so they can't grow. You know, they're not overtly sanctioned. It's just global racism exercised against the tiny island because blacks asserted themselves. Because those would be that'd be an affirmative black voice in the world. That's another thing, but that the Haitian Revolution has a lot to do with the discrepancies around uh, who gets admitted into this country, the quotas. Then America turns around and says, looks at the immigration, and they say, well, let's just now the numbers are that way because of American policies about skin color, but then they freeze it and say, oh, we're such an open nation, let's have our immigration policies as keep it as such, where we trickle in dark colored skin, but it's wide open to lighter skinned European folks. Okay, so that's the issue. So in this climate of dysfunction and all this justification, immigration is an issue. right? And how's that work out? Well, the lighter skinned Europeans come and first, second, third generation, these folks are making six figures. They climbed the ladder. They are representing the country to the world, and on and on and on and on. Success. That's what I don't think we were. I don't think America was hearing how vulnerable and exposed it was as we were listening to these leaders and stuff. Yeah, maybe they, yes, they paid some dues, but black folks under Jim Crow and slavery and all these discrepancies, uh, you know, struggled to get a black president. Uh, the the ambassador is supposed to be a representative of the nation. This is a diverse nation, but why are only white people representing uh, America to the world and these other nations when America is supposed to be diverse and a melting pot? Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, right? All right, I'm out of time today, but think about that. We're going to talk about tomorrow or the next day, whenever you watch this again. We'll have a part two of this justification and mixing it in with some issues of immigration. I think it's a very important reflection to have. I'm trying to cover as much ground and material. There's way more than 365 days worth. Trust me. But come back again. We're going to talk about immigration as it relates to this justification issue. I'm Thomas Nyback. This is 365 Days Towards Racial Change, day 278. Out of the way. Great to see you. Come back tomorrow.